Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I'm broadcasting from rainy London today. My name is, for who hasn't been here before, my name is Maria. I go for simply Maria. I go by M. Basquiat when I tell my stories which I have gathered for you from around the globe. These stories revolve around creative techniques, tips and tricks, how to study, work and travel literally around the globe with very little capital, with very little personal budget, but in my stories I share with you how you can actually have the life of your time. Also, I'm sharing later on, I'll be sharing my techniques and methods how to learn a myriad of languages, sometimes in not the most linear way, but works perfectly fine. And speaking of languages, as I promised in my last episode, I'm going to tell you today how I ended up studying in exotic Brazil, where and how I embarked on a very shiny journey, probably in the most absurd way and the most unexpected way, but everything turned out very well. So the story goes like this. As mentioned in the last episode, I was fascinated by the story of the French-Spanish movie, Spanish Hostel, how to go on exchange program abroad. So I was kind of interested in what are my options at the University of Lyon, in Lyon. So I had to pick a language, like to get credits, because I had to finish my year, right? And I was working part-time in as had a student job, so obviously didn't have all the time, and I sometimes couldn't get the best classes I wanted, or not the class I wanted, but the ones that I had time for. So since I was working between 12 and 2, and my options were taking a language class probably in the afternoon. So I wanted to learn Spanish, but things didn't quite work out as I wanted. So the next best thing that was available in the time slot that I was available was Portuguese. So I enrolled in the Portuguese class for beginners, but this same year, the university in Lyon, this one in particular, was striking. Yes, in France there's a lot of strikes. So basically I went to probably a few classes throughout the semester. The semester was a little bit interrupted due to strikes, constant strikes. And in one of the probably second or third class of this Portuguese for beginners, there was a list of paper that was getting distributed around among the students, and the teacher asked us to fill our name and put a signature in case we're interested in going on a journey to Brazil to study abroad on exchange program. I was like, sure, why not? Piece of paper? I totally put my name on. Never knows where it goes, you know? It's like message in a bottle, you know? So I wasn't very at ease with the Portuguese because I didn't really have time to study, and also didn't have a lot of exposure because the university was on strike, right? As I explained. Few months later, I received one random call on one random day that I was accepted to apply to submit a file to study in Brazil. And I was like, shall I do it? Of course I should. Why wouldn't I? If there's an opportunity out there, if it's presented like this, well, sometimes maybe you should go with the flow, right? And go for it. That's great, but how do I submit a file when I don't speak really Portuguese? It just happened that this year I managed to qualify and I managed to get the credits, but wasn't really on my radar, wasn't on my bucket list, wasn't something like, just things that happened, you know, in the most promiscuous, the most random way. Well, so I didn't have anybody around me, nobody in my entourage spoke Portuguese that was eligible to give me a hand how to put the file together. So I was wondering with this paperwork and how should the carrot was in front of me, so I had to go for it. with my creative mind, I started thinking all the resources that I have around. Well, I'm at the university, so definitely must be a Lusophone department somewhere. I went into the language faculty, found the Lusophone department, knocked on a random door. A lady, a Brazilian nice teacher, opened the door. I explained my concern. I explained what I want to do and that I wanted to put a project together. So she was just fascinated by this, and instead of rejecting my request, she was more than happy to give me a hand to put a file together, write a cover letter, and then fill in the documents with me. In the next half an hour I was ready, went to present these documents to my teachers. Everybody couldn't really understand how and why I would be so motivated to go to a country where I obviously don't really speak the language, even though the documents kind of show the opposite, right? But I tried to explain that I won't fail the semester, I will represent the university with pride, and I will come back with a new resource and perfect Portuguese. And of course everybody was like, yes, sure, she just wants to drink caipirinha on the beach in Brazil. Do you think that was right? This is one way to do it or another. So yeah, things kind of happen like that. Yeah, right? In a probably a more linear type of scenario, someone else would study for a few years Portuguese, would prepare nicely, mentally, and also will have the right linguistic skills and sets to embark on a journey like that. Well, not in my scenario, not in my case. You see, this is like one of the many cases that just happen only to this type of people here, right? So everything worked out well. I managed to put the files together, and I was very busy with work, so I couldn't be bothered applying for a visa. I checked some random resources on Google, and then I found one that was very convenient, saying that once I arrived in the host country, I can certainly apply for a visa, right? Probably didn't sound very realistic, but it was very convenient, especially in this moment. I was living in Lyon, had to go all the way to Paris to apply for a visa. It was too much work. I was like, better go from point A to point B and apply for a visa in the country. I was studying in a public university. You have opportunities, but sometimes you have to be very vigilant about your own project because there's not a lot of assistance around. And this is absolutely fair enough because we're working with young adults, with grown-ups, and we also have to be more alert about how and why and when we build these projects together. So I went to Brazil, realized that I don't speak really a word of Portuguese. I don't know how I managed to finish the semester, and I validated it. But when I arrived there, Sao Paulo was a massive jungle, concrete jungle, giant hive. It's one of the most populated cities with the biggest traffic jams in the world, and it was very dangerous back at the time. I've heard that things have gone better, but it was really just not safe. It wasn't even a matter that am I going to be able to validate my year at the university in Sao Paulo studying media and communications, and also of course English linguistics, a Bulgarian born, going there out of France, obviously, right? It super makes sense. Very linear scenario as usual. But yeah, it was just a little bit dangerous in Sao Paulo, so I had to be very alert and had to learn Portuguese in the speed of light. Thankfully, I was living with a family, very nice family, and they were super helpful, but most of the family members were speaking English besides two of their kids that were living in Lyon in the previous year, whom I met, and they spoke French. So I had already French and English, so I was already in a pretty good place. And again, I wasn't really pushed out of my comfort zone because Brazilian people are so nice, and they all straight away take you by the hand and try to introduce you to their culture. They're very friendly, very helpful. And the first week, I didn't feel that mesmerized, and I thought it should be easy peasy. Yeah, not quite like that, as you can imagine. I went to the university. First week, I realized that this story with the visa is just not possible. I cannot literally enroll in the semester if I don't have a visa, right? Because I was there literally on a tourist visa. Right. I don't speak Portuguese. I don't have the right documents. And I'm on the other side of the globe, somewhere in the southern hemisphere. And I don't know a lot of people there, so maybe it's not the best scenario. Went back to France, again with the speed of light. Applied for the visa. Everything went out smoothly. It was a little bit difficult to explain to the embassy why they're stamped back and forth with Brazil for a matter of days. Usually students don't do that type of stuff, so I kind of had to cover the whole situation with trying to sneak in the country to study without having the right set of documents. Everything turned out well. Everything was eligible. It was just not very linear, put it this way. So on my second trial to start my shiny journey in Brazil, everything worked out well. But then I had the real encounter of the fact that without Portuguese, I'm doomed. Yes, I am indeed. Why? Because first of all, at school, most of the people did not really speak English in the media and communications sector, and they were probably shy to communicate in English. And also São Paulo was massive, and the idea was that I really get to learn this new set of skills, new language, but it was complicated, really complicated. The housekeeper in the house where I was living was very intrigued by the fact of having a foreigner. So I was very at ease with her and almost saw in her like a resource to practice the few sentences that I had picked here and there. And she really managed to introduce me to the first few sentences that were very useful, at least to get by. And then I got more and more immersed into their culture because she really wanted to share with me basic Brazilian food, about how their expressions work, how their really cultural things, and this was very helpful. And by showing me all the objects around the house, I managed to learn about how you call a bowl of water, that this is a bracelet, and this is how you call this hair in Portuguese. And with her help and just being in the right set of mind, like I really managed to tune myself. In a matter of 2 weeks, the Portuguese kind of like just happened. I mean, I wasn't able to say anything and everything I wanted, but I was making pretty good sentences together. Afterwards, started going to school, started making friends, and all of a sudden, a month later, well, you actually realize that you're making a pretty good progress and you can talk about a lot of things in a very foreign language in the matter of literally weeks. Why? Because I put myself in context before knowing about the context. Usually people do it the other way around. They prepare, they go, they check, certainly organize it differently. But just because I kind of rearranged and reprioritized the different shades and the different steps of similar project or the way anybody else would approach it, I realized that I put myself into context. In a matter of time, my brain adjusted. I managed to replicate the new sounds. I managed to retain new sounds. I managed to embrace and really start loving a new culture. Being part of this exotic country was a tremendous opportunity and pleasure, and always helped me for afterwards. But it was just a very non-linear type of scenario, the way you end up from France, being Bulgarian, to study media communications and English linguistics at the University of São Paulo. Yes, of course. And then travel all over South America also. And then what? And the next day, I realized it would be great maybe if I learn Spanish. How about Spanish? I always wanted to learn Spanish, but never really happened. So for this reason, next time I realized that, well, maybe if it worked out like this with Brazil, if I'm a little bit more focused and if I tune myself right and I make the right steps now, the year after, maybe I can be going to where? Maybe, how about run to Mexico and be somewhere on the pristine white sand, crystal clear water beaches where the Mayans and Aztecas were running to? Well, maybe this happened too, who knows? We'll learn about this in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed my story and I hope you had a nice time. If you have any questions about how to prepare documents, how to build your project about studying abroad, and if you want to share your own experiences, just let me know in the comments below. If you also like this video, hit that bell, subscribe to my channel because it's very useful, very helpful for us, and also spread the word. M. Basquiat is telling stories about how to study, work, and travel literally around the globe with no capital, no personal budget, but with certain tips and tricks we're going to learn in the next episode. Thanks!